Yo, what is going on, homies? It's your boy Stumped back for another OPTC video, and in today's video we're over here on the Japanese side of the game showcasing the new Straw Hats Legends. So that was the team, these are the supports. Let's dive in. So, unfortunately, Global and JP have both had so much going on with treasure maps and Kazunas and triple legend releases, new events, and One Piece Day, and unfortunately I haven't really had a chance to sit down and actually play Japan that much outside of the required stuff, like the daily stuff, and then Kazuna and treasure map and all that sort of stuff. But in today's video, I finally managed to get around to utilizing the new Straw Hat Legend against Revolutionary Army 2. Now, while we continue chatting, or before we start chatting about the actual content, I just want to chat about the Legend real quick. Now, this particular team does this very, very well and very, very easily. This is not the perfect run. This was actually just like my first attempt, actually, or second attempt. I died once against Morley, but other than that, this team just like cruises through. It has so much healing. It has so much damage reduction. We have access to the overhealing mechanic. It has a lot of power in its switch abilities with color affinity and chain locking with Vivi, Rebecca, and Sabo, as well as the Straw Hats. If you're over or at max HP, you actually are super effective against all types. So utilizing the switch ability of Sabo every single turn is really, really strong for this particular team, provided you are over max HP, which we are for most of the time. Once we get to stage 3, we come up against Hack. Now, Hack gives us a 50% HP cut, 3 turns of attack down. It has 3 mob enemies that all have good barriers. So on this particular stage, we're actually going to use one of the Straw Hat specials. The Straw Hats can remove 5 turns of any debuff of your choosing. And for this particular stage, we're actually going to remove the attack down, which is really nice. The Straw Hats will also make all orbs matching with their special as well, which is excelente, as they rotate block orbs as well. So with their special, you can basically get a full board of orbs no matter what. With that, we've got Barrier Pen with Sabo, so we can destroy the barrier, and we can actually do a lot of damage on this particular turn. But unfortunately, we weren't at max HP. So what you can actually do here is switch with your Shirashiri and then use the Corazon special. Now, the reason I brought Corazon was purely just so we can stay at a max or a high HP. Now, if you use Corazon special here, that'll also remove the attack down as well, but he comes more in handy later, as well as just being able to keep us at max HP with his massive heal and the ability of Shirashiri. But just be mindful when you do kill Hack, he will do again a 50% HP cut or something like that when he dies. So just be mindful of that, and ideally, you kind of want to save the Corazon special for this particular stage. Against this particular stage, against Ivankov and the 2 Karxma girls, they give us 4 turns of despair and bind on our captains, and then they roll our captains and middle row special back. So make sure Sabo's down the bottom. Very important that you do that. So when you use their special, you can actually still remove the bind and the despair. Because we have a Luffy on the team, namely the Straw Hats as our captain, we actually get 3 turns of a 2.5 times orb boost to our shooters and our free spirit units, which most of this team is, at least 2/3 of this team is. It can be 5/6, but it just depends on what variation of Vivi Rebecca you are. But ideally, you just want to make sure that you have the chain lock at all times as well. So don't stress if you do switch into Rebecca and not have that orb buff, as Ivankov doesn't really do anything till after the 2nd turn. Again, take 2 turns here if you need to. If you get lucky with orbs, you could probably take this stage out in 1 turn, purely by just taking out the Int Karxma girl as well as Ivankov. So on this particular stage, this is where I'm going to use the Corazon special, just so we can get back to max HP. That way we can have access to the Straw Hats super affinity, color affinity against all types sort of thing. The way that I sort of like to compare the Straw Hats Legend is they're like a bullet, but like on crack. Provided you have the right subs for the team, namely V2 Shirashiri giving you the overheal mechanic, you can abuse that super effective against all types very, very easily. On the next turn, we come up against Sabo and Koala. They're going to make all colored orbs unfavorable, lock our orbs, and they don't let us use something like an attack. They don't let us use an orb boost or orb rotation, so just be careful of that. But you do want to kill Koala in 2 turns and then take out Sabo on the 3rd turn. And even with the all orbs unfavorable, we can get through it pretty easily, as we are super effective against all types. Now, I'm at the super switch with my Sabo, and I didn't switch with Sabo here, namely because I was in the Rebecca variation, and I was still in the Ace variation. So the idea that I wanted to do here, and I actually stuffed this up again, is switch with Sabo and Ace, so that way we have 3 Dex units, and that way we can do a lot of damage to Koala, and then we can use the super effective against all types to do some damage into Sabo. Unfortunately, though, I did totally forget that the Straw Hats are super effective against all types, and I actually attacked with them before my Dex unit, so I lost a lot of color affinity with that 2.25 color affinity buff that the super switch can give you through Sabo. Nevertheless, it's not a big issue, because as long as you can take out Koala by that 2nd turn, you are going to be fine, and then take out Sabo on the next turn. On the next turn, we get all of our orbs back, which is really, really handy. And that way we can output a little bit more damage against our boy Sabo here. We can switch into Rebecca too, so we have color affinity with the switch ability of Sabo and Ace, giving us 1.5 rainbow color affinity. It works really, really well as we have 3 units that are hitting very, very hard here. Goodbye, Sabo. Once Sabo dies, he has a revive mechanic, mainly because we'll see him again at the final stage. Very similar to what Koala did. Once we hit the next stage, we come up against Morley, and this is where the content starts to drag a little bit. Namely because we have to stall on Morley. He puts up 5 turns of resilience, 2 turns of threshold, and 2 turns of defense up. And unfortunately for us, we are just going to have to sort of see that out, as we don't have a way of getting rid of that. But nevertheless, we have a lot of healing on this team with the switch abilities of Shirishari and Vivi and Rebecca as well. So we are going to abuse that and sort of take some shots from Morley. Now, Morley hits for around 27,000 with this particular team. So as long as you're above 27,000 HP, you will be fine. And if you need to, well, when you need to, I should say, you can use that Shirahoshi Mancherry special to give yourself max HP once again. Once the threshold and the defensive way goes away, he's then going to put up another 5 turns of the same buffs on himself. So you really want to just hold down until then. Every single turn, he's going to give us a full board of Dex Orbs, and he's also going to give us a Chain Lock as well. So just be mindful of that. But we are just going to stall a little bit on this particular stage, and I'm going to fast forward a bit here until we get to the point where we can start taking out Morley. Alright, so we got to the point where the defense up and the threshold is now gone, and Morley's always on a 2-turn cooldown. Once he takes a knee, though, you got to be really careful, because he pretty much will kill you. Now, this particular stage, you could probably do a little bit better than what I've done here. I sort of stalled out a little bit extra and just killed him with normal attacks. But then once I got to this particular point here, I was like, well, I don't know if I have the damage without using a Straw Hat special. But as soon as the 5 turns of defense up and threshold go away, you can pretty much use the Straw Hat special, do a huge burst turn, and take out Morley a lot quicker. But just be mindful that that chain lock that he gives you is very, very annoying. But with the the special of the Straw Hats, we can actually remove that. If you're not a spoon and you switch with Vivi Rebecca after you use the Straw Hat special as well, you'll have access to your own chain lock as well, and just make this stage a lot easier than what it already is. You could probably honestly burst with the Straw Hat special live if you are at like max HP and you have the chain lock of Vivi Rebecca. You should be able to easily take out Morley like from day dot. Like I said, provided you are at max HP, because you get the color affinity buff, you get the attack buff from the Straw Hats as well. Once we hit the next stage, we come up against Belo, Betty, and 5 of her rally chicks. They give us 3 turns of paralysis and 3 turns of attack down. And this is where the Bardo support on our Straw Hat Legend is very, very strong. The upside to using the Straw Hat crew is you have access to basically every Straw Hat support, but you do lose out on 10 highly represented characters. So the trade-off is quite large, but there is a silver lining there, as we do have a lot of good access to supports. And because the Straw Hats have Robin, we have access to Bardo. Bardo can remove the paralysis, and then with the special of the Straw Hats, we can give ourselves the attack buff, we can give ourselves color affinity, we can remove 1 debuff by 5 turns, which is going to be the attack down, very similar to the first stage against Hack, and then we can do a lot of damage to our girl Belo Betty here. Now, unfortunately for us, we don't have enough damage to take out this stage in 1 turn, or actually, I was doing this last night, it was quite late. Do we have enough damage to take out this one in 1 turn? I don't think we do. We're not at max HP, so we don't have the color affinity buff. No, we don't. We do a lot of damage to Belo Betty, though, and we will easily take her out on the next turn. Now, you need to make sure that you do have Corazon in the bottom left and Sabo in the bottom right. Very, very important that you guys do that. This content's been out for a very long time, and if you are a Japan player, you probably are already aware of that. But we are going to need Corazon special for the next turn, so we do need to make sure that he's in the bottom left or the middle right. Ideally, the bottom left, but it doesn't really matter if you have him in the bottom left or the bottom middle right now that I'm thinking about it. Namely because on this stage against Lindbergh, he gives us bind on our top right, bottom right, middle left, as well as 3 turns of paralysis. So with Corazon, we can actually remove the 3 turns of bind as well as the 3 turns of paralysis, and with the switch ability of Shirishari, we can actually remove the other turn of bind. So make sure you have Shirishari in one of those bottom left and middle right slots as well. That way you can get around all the nasty debuffs. Now, unfortunately for us, Lindbergh actually gives us a full board of unfavorable slots as well, but don't stress, we can take him out on the second turn, as he really doesn't do too much else besides double attack. And because we use the Corazon special after we switch with Shirishari, we actually have like so much HP that it doesn't matter too much how much damage he does, because we can actually tank it. Even with that end of turn damage, we are absolutely fine. Once we hit the second turn against Lindbergh, we're going to switch into our Rebecca variation, and then we can use the super switch of Sabo and Ace to give us a 2.25 times color affinity buff. Now, that's going to be half our team hitting with color affinity, as the Straw Hats are super effective against all types, which means that our boy Lindbergh is just going to absolutely melt. On to the next stage now against Karasu. Now, against Karasu, this is again where things get a little bit tedious. If you guys get your Shirishari special back in time, you guys can actually use that to your advantage here. And throughout the run, after you use your Straw Hat special, you should be popping the Liberal Hind. I just totally forgot about this whole entire run. Like I said, this is not exactly the perfect run, but nevertheless, it did this so damn comfortably, and it just sort of cruised through this event without too much trouble, to be honest. Karasu puts up 2 turns of threshold every on the 3rd turn, and he gives you 2 turns of despair as well. But with the switchability of Shirishari, we can actually remove that, and then we can sort of just do the damage on the 3rd turn once Karasu doesn't have his threshold buff. He also gives us chain coefficient reduction, but with the switchability of Vivi and Rebecca, we don't have to worry about that because we're giving ourselves a chain lock every single turn. Once Karasu's threshold goes away, you can do a lot of damage. Ideally, on this particular turn, I would actually use the Shirahoshi Mancherry special. That way, you guys can get back to full HP. You'll get the chain buff mechanic, but you have the chain lock anyway, so it doesn't matter too much. And that way, you can do a lot of damage here. And as you can see, you could easily take out Karasu in 1 turn. Ideally, I would do that. Then you're at max HP. But the thing is, I wasn't using the Liberal Hind special throughout the run, so I didn't actually have my Straw Hat specials ready to go. You can use their super typings to give you cooldowns there. Their super typing is very good at that. But your boy's an absolute spoon, as you know, and I was just sort of testing this team for like the first time. And once I got past Morley, this was literally my first run. So the team does it very, very well, as I mentioned, but there is a quicker and better way to do this. But Revolutionary Army is just kind of one of those pieces of content where you can sort of just cruise through it. Do things while you're doing it, sort of like making dinner and whatnot. But nevertheless, like I said, this team's very, very safe and does it very, very well. So we're just going to stall out 1 more turn on Karasu here so he can get rid of that threshold debuff. We have the overheal of Shirishari and Vivi Rebecca, and as I mentioned, I would definitely make sure to use the Shirishari special before you leave this particular stage, because once we hit the next stage, we get our recovery drastically reduced, so their special is actually not going to give us a lot of healing, and we can only use 2 specials. But like I said, I totally stuffed this run up, and I wanted to re-record this, but not a lot of friends on my friend list actually have Luffy and the Straw Hats, so I just sort of had to take my losses here. Now, I actually stayed as Vivi on this particular stage, namely so I can switch into Rebecca on the final stage. That just sort of takes away 1 more character that has color affinity, or non-color affinity, I should say, against Sabo and Koala. Sabo and Koala are a strength unit, so your Shirishari and your Ace of Ace Sabo are going to be hitting very hard, and if you were clever and you actually use the Shirahoshi Mancherry special on the previous turn, you will be over max HP as well, making the Straw Hats super effective against all types. We get a full board of block orbs, and we can only use 2 specials on this particular stage, but don't stress, because all we need is our Straw Hat special and our Ace Sabo special. Damn, that special is so beautiful. I love it so much. So with that, we've got damage reduction. We have a 2.25 attack boost, 2.25 color affinity boost. We have a chain lock with Vivi Rebecca's switchability. We've basically got everything going for us. 2.5 orbs. Now, what you actually can do on this final stage, though, you can actually use the Straw Hat special twice and actually remove the 10 turns of special blind. Some little cheeky thing that I just noticed there after I used the Straw Hat special, but it was just too late for me. But if you want to and you have both Straw Hats available, you can use both their specials, remove the special blind. You will be super effective against L types as well, so there's a lot of different ways you can do this. But there you guys go. That was Revolutionary Army 2 with the new Straw Hats Legend. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, make sure to go down there and belt the like button for me if you're new to the channel. Hit the big red subscribe button too. But guys, wherever you are in this beautiful world, please remember to enjoy the rest of your day. As always, homies, I thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Lights!